Hendricks, and I'm going to be informing you about the harsh realities behind anabolic steroids. Many of you have heard about steroids, especially on the news when an athlete has been busted for doping. And most of you know that steroids generally make you stronger, faster, and an overall better athlete. But what are steroids? Steroids are lipids composed of a carbon skeleton with 4 fused rings attached and are defined as naturally occurring hormones in the body. Anabolic steroids are synthetic derivatives of testosterone, the sex hormone produced by the reproductive system in both males and females. Steroids have a negative impact on the body. Anger, acne, oily hair, purple or red spots on the body, legs, and feet are just a few of the minor side effects. Heart attacks are common with steroid use. Steroids contribute to cardiovascular disease by affecting lipoproteins, which carry cholesterol throughout the body. Liver tumors and a condition called peliosis hepatitis have been found in people with steroid abuse. If the liver tumors or cysts should rupture, internal bleeding occurs, which leads to death. In men, decreased sperm production, testicular atrophy, and increased breast size are common. In females, skin becomes rougher, baldness, and clitoral hypertrophy are common. The most common effects of steroid use is the roid rage and extreme mood swings. Steroid abuse often leads to strains in relationships, depression, and suicidal thoughts. Since the beginning of time, athletes have been seeking to find something that will give them an edge over their competitors. In the 1800s, cyclists were drinking coffee laced with cocaine and strychnine, which would dull the pain. The cyclist trainers would drop flakes of cocaine into their mouths as they rode by and would mix cocaine and cocoa butter into a homemade cream that they could then rub onto their legs. Swimmers in Holland would drink alcohol with drugs in it. Charles Edward Brown is credited with the discovery of testosterone in 1889. He claimed that he had reversed the aging process by injecting himself with liquid derived from the testicles of dogs and guinea pigs. In 1935, increased muscle mass was reported in dogs who were injected with human testosterone. Adolf Hitler gave his troops testosterone in order to make them stronger, and after World War II, doctors gave steroids to concentration camp survivors to return them to full health. It is reported that in the 1972 games, 2/3 of the Olympic athletes had used steroids. Steroids were officially banned in the Olympics in 1975 by the International Olympic Committee, but the IOC didn't start administering tests until the following year. Today, the World Anti-Doping Agency makes recommendations to the International Olympic Committee on who should be tested, and then the IOC supervises the testing process. Benton Johnson, a Canadian track star, is arguably one of the most famous Olympic steroid abusers. He beat Carl Lewis in the 1988 Summer Olympics, winning the gold medal. When it was proven that he had used steroids, the gold medal was stripped from him and given to Carl Lewis. Subsequently, Benton Johnson was banned from the Olympics for life. Marion Jones was stripped of her 6 medals in 2000 after she tested positive. She won the California Interscholastic Federation state track meet in high school. It is suspected that she was on steroids even in high school. She and her husband, also an Olympian, were convicted of doping in 2000. Olga Connolly, who competed in the discus throw, said, "There is no way in the world nowadays, in the throwing events, a woman can break the record unless she's on steroids." In 1967, many of the women looked more like men, so all of the female track athletes were given chromosome tests. Many of them failed the test, meaning they were actually men. After the test, many quietly retired. Most of the remaining athletes were on steroids. A national doping program is a program that gives athletes drugs under the direction or with the strong support of the country's government and sport federation officials. Doctors and scientists are a part of the program. Programs such as this are against the rules of sports. In August 2000, over 400 doctors, coaches, and trainers from the former East Germany were found guilty of giving steroids to their athletes. Many athletes in India say there are still countless problems with their anti-doping agency. Athletes from India have easy access and limited knowledge about the consequences of steroids. The athletes lack proper nutrition, training, and medical care. They only have 3 sports medicine doctors, 6 physiotherapists, 3 physiologists, and 1 nutritionist. A steroid supplier in New Delhi said that his biggest clients are coaches of young athletes. The athletes grow up in a culture where you do not question your coaches. Therefore, when they are handed a substance, they take it with no questions at all. Prakash Singh said, "Look at our facilities. If someone offered you steroids and said you would not get caught, wouldn't you take them too?" Major League Baseball could be considered one of the most popular professional sports with the history of steroid abuse. In 2002, Senators Byron Dorgan and John McCain demanded a solution be reached about steroids in baseball, or the federal government would be forced to get involved. On March 1st, 2003, survey testing began at spring training. The athletes were tested to gauge the use of steroids. The tests were anonymous and no one was punished. June 2004, MLB begins official testing under the Joint Drug Agreement. On April 3rd, 2005, the first Major League Baseball player tested positive. Tampa Bay's Alex Sanchez was suspended for 10 days. On April 25th, 2005, Bud Selig implemented the 3 strikes and you're out approach. The first offense was issued a 50-game suspension. The second offense, 100 games. And the third time, you're out and banned permanently. One player said, basically, steroids can jump you up a level or 2. The average player can become a star, and the star can become a superstar. And the superstar, forget it. He can do things we've never seen before. Alex Rodriguez, Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, and Roger Clemens are the most notorious steroid users in baseball. The biggest steroid scandal to date was the Bay Area Laboratory Cooperative Scandal, which first broke in 2003. IRS agent Jeff Nowitzki found that they had steroids after digging in their trash cans. He sent it into Dr. Caitlin at UCLA, who then identified and named the unknown steroid as tetrahydrogesterone. Only 2 weeks after THG had been identified, 4 athletes had tested positive, and all of them had received steroids from Balco. Balco owner Victor Conte, Vice President Jim Valente, and Barry Bonds' personal trainer and steroid supplier, Greg Anderson, were all put to trial. The most recent steroid scandal broke in 2013. A Miami, Florida clinic named Biogenesis was busted for steroids. 13 Major League Baseball players were suspended, including Ryan Braun and Alex Rodriguez. Braun took the 65-game suspension and has returned for this current season. A-Rod was given a 211-game suspension due to previous steroid abuse, but he appealed it and it was reduced to a 162-game suspension. He has to sit out the entire 2014 season. Not much is currently known about the inner workings of the Biogenesis scandal. It does seem that PED suspensions for football players are met with varying levels of indifference. The gladiatorial nature of football leads to a sort of do what you must in order to win line of thought from those who demand entertainment through violence. Steroid abuse has been a part of the NFL since the 1960s. To gaze upon your average NFL player and see the work of nothing but genetic good fortune and hard work requires a level of credulity that should elude you. Many have a theory that steroids would not have a beneficial impact for basketball players, and that accounts for the lack of positive steroids tests. In reality, strength would do any basketball player a favor. Look at LeBron James, Dwight Howard, etc., who use their strength to their advantage. Human growth hormone would be enormously beneficial due to the amount of games the NBA plays and its ability to repair muscles quickly, adding lean muscle. The NBA currently has many gaps in its anti-doping testing program. It is currently unknown the extent to which steroids take place in hockey, but it is known that Adderall and Ambien are commonly taken. Individual no-notice testing has been introduced this season. A committee is working to come up with solutions for human growth hormone, testosterone, Adderall, and Ambien. Not only is steroid abuse a problem with the pros, but it has become a very serious issue in college sports. Random announced drug testing is conducted by the NCAA, and the penalties for failure are very severe. Players lose an entire year of eligibility after a first positive test. A second offense means permanent ineligibility from sports. It is hard to know the right statistics for steroids in college sports because the NCAA has not published its data for 2 years. Players can oftentimes get around tests, and oftentimes college athletes are not tested at all. One reason for lack of testing is cost. For a school to test its entire football team, it would cost about $34,000, money that most schools unfortunately do not have. Only about half the athletes in a 2009 NCAA survey said that they believe school testing deterred drug use. Because of the high numbers of steroid use in the pros and college, we are seeing a trickle effect down into the high school level. Every high school athlete in California must sign a pledge that he or she will not use anabolic steroids. One study shows that nearly 40% of high school seniors said steroids were fairly easy or very easy to acquire. In 1995, a 14-year-old girl tested positive for steroids, the world's youngest athlete to test positive. It is extremely dangerous for children and teens to take steroids. The steroid-increased testosterone level tells the body's inner workings, it's time to stop growing. You're tall enough. When this happens, the bones stop growing. 4% of high school seniors have abused steroids at least once. And 1 out of every 15 male high school seniors has used steroids. The largest group of athletes take steroids but are not caught. So how are they getting around these positive tests? Athletes can take drugs that are unknown and therefore are not being tested. They can take less than the amount allowed, and there are other substances that can mask the steroids in your systems, such as Balcos, the clear, and the cream. But what does the Bible say? 1 Timothy 4:8-9 says, "For while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. The saying is trustworthy and deserving of full acceptance." 1 Corinthians 6:19-20 says, "Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price, so glorify God in your body." Many denominations all have the same view regarding steroids. Pastor Robert Hendricks says that every athlete has a life after sports, so why are you risking that part for this small part? 2 Corinthians 12:7-10 says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weakness, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong." Pastor Hendricks continues, "How can you ask God to help you out if you are doing it on your own, trusting yourself more than you trust God?" Father John Matuziak says, "The church in no way condones the use of steroids, unless prescribed by a physician. Further, the illegal use of steroids to give someone an edge over his or her competition is clearly unethical." The Catholic Church believes that we should avoid the abuse of any drug or other substance. The virtue of temperance disposes us to avoid every kind of excess, the abuse of food, alcohol, tobacco, or medicine. The Methodist Church says, "We support the abstinence from the use of any illegal drugs. We support educational programs as well as other prevention strategies, encouraging abstinence from illegal drug abuse." So why not just make them legal? Many people argue that making them legal would allow equal playing field for all. It would cut law enforcement and testing costs down. If they were legal, 2 changes would have to happen. 1, federal laws would have to be lifted on the ban on steroids, and nearly all sports would have to lift the ban. So why not? We cannot, because of the harmful effects on the body, including the damage to the liver, kidneys, brain, heart, etc. So how can we stop it? First, we have to educate. Steroid abuse is starting young, and even if they aren't using, most kids know how to have access to steroids, just like most drugs. In schools around the world, kids and teens should start learning about the harmful effects steroids have on your body. Next, we need to make punishments harsher. We learned that only about half of the athletes believe that testing stops people from taking steroids. So if we made it where the risk was no longer worth the reward, steroid abuse would lower. Lastly, I believe that if pro athletes stood up against steroids, college athletes would stop using steroids when they realized the pros were not doing it anymore. Then the high school students saw the college stop using it, and then they'd stop. If the pros could say no, I believe the steroid use would drastically lower. So where should you turn if you are caught up in steroids? Narcotics Anonymous holds regular meetings to keep members accountable. They follow the same program as Alcoholics Anonymous and have proven successful. You can visit their website for more information. Another good place to turn is a Rehabilitation Center. There are many that help people treat people with specific withdrawal symptoms such as headaches, muscle, and joint pain, and are specific for steroids. One successful rehab center for steroids is Seabrook House in New Jersey. You can get more information on their website as well. Thank you. Are there any questions?